What happens when a veteran journalist who built her career on confronting power sits across from a royal figure known more for branding than substance? What happens when the facade cracks, live on television? Megyn Kelly didn't just ask tough questions, she exposed a pattern. And Meghan Markle. She walked into The View expecting applause. What she got was a takedown that will be studied for years, from tax records to charity claims, media manipulation to public accountability. This isn't just a celebrity interview. This is a collision of truth and performance. Get ready for tension, receipts, and one of the most brutal live confrontations in modern television. Don't forget to subscribe and comment your thoughts below. You won't want to miss the ending of this showdown. Now let's dive in. The studio lights were warm, the set glowing in that familiar way fans of The View have come to expect. The audience, filled with excited energy, clapped as the theme music faded. Another morning, another episode, or so it seemed. But today was not a normal day. Today, Megyn Kelly sat in the guest host chair. Her presence shifted the room. There was something about her sharp eyes, calm voice, a kind of readiness. She had built her career on pressing where others tiptoed. She was not there to trade compliments. Across from her sat Meghan Markle, poised, dressed in a soft cream blouse. Hair perfectly styled, she smiled warmly, with that familiar blend of grace and control. She looked at home in the spotlight, answering early questions with ease. She spoke about charity, family, empowerment. The crowd nodded along. Some even clapped. It felt smooth, too smooth. The regular co-hosts seemed relaxed at first. They had done this dance before, like questions, inspiring sound bites, applause. But Megyn was not smiling. She was watching, listening carefully. Something was off, and the room could feel it. There was a kind of tightness in the air, like everyone knew a line had been drawn but could not yet see it. Then Megyn leaned forward. Her tone stayed calm, but the energy changed. The soft beginning was over. The compliments stopped. The questions started cutting. And Meghan Markle was not ready for what came next. Megyn Kelly has spent years in the heat of real journalism. From primetime newsrooms to presidential debates, she has always asked the tough questions. Her style is direct, no sugarcoating, no sidestepping. She built her reputation by going head-to-head with people in power. So when she walked into The View, it was never going to be just another morning chat. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, has followed a very different path. Actress turned duchess, then turned global advocate. She went from Hollywood lights to palace walls, and then into the spotlight of activism. She speaks often about women's rights, mental health, and representation. And while the media has often been harsh with her, there has also been a wave of support. Many see her as a symbol of strength. Others say she is just skilled at controlling the narrative. That tension was already in the room before a single question was asked. Two powerful women, each used to shaping the conversation, now sitting across from each other. Both polished, both prepared, but only one ready for a real confrontation. That as the segment began, Megyn gave the answers she always does. Calm, thoughtful, focused on change. She spoke about empowering young women, using your voice, creating safe spaces. Her tone was steady, practiced. The audience responded politely, but there was a sense that the show was moving through the motions. Then Megyn Kelly leaned in. She waited for Megyn to finish a sentence about using platforms for good, then cut in gently, but firmly. Her words were careful, but her meaning was sharp. What does that actually mean, Megyn? Can you give a specific example of how you have used your platform for something concrete? The air shifted. The co-hosts looked up. Megyn's smile held, but her eyes flickered. That was not the kind of question she expected here. Megyn stayed steady. She was not attacking, but she was not letting go either. She wanted real answers, not rehearsed lines, and just like that, the tone of the entire interview changed. The audience could feel it too. This was no longer a talk show segment. This was a clash of two very different worlds. Megyn Kelly kept her voice calm as she turned back toward Megyn. There was no aggression, no raised tone, just a simple question that cut straight to the core. Megyn, you talk a lot about impact. Can you tell us the names of some specific charities you have partnered with? And what exactly your role has been in those efforts? The audience grew quiet. It was the kind of question that sounded polite on the surface, but it had weight behind it. Megyn shifted slightly in her seat. She smiled, then launched into an answer filled with broad language. She spoke about the importance of giving back, how her work was often behind the scenes, and how she believed in doing good without needing recognition. She mentioned several partnerships, but did not name any. She repeated that her focus was on service, not headlines. Megyn nodded slowly. Her expression did not change, but everyone could tell she was not satisfied with that answer. Then came the moment no one expected. Megyn reached down, pulled out a slim folder from under the table, and laid it gently in front of her. Her tone stayed steady. I actually took some time to review the public filings from the Arkwell Foundation. It seems that, while there has been some charitable giving, The majority of the reported expenses last year went toward staffing, travel, and media consultants. You could hear the breath leave the room. One of the co-hosts shifted in her seat. The others looked straight ahead. The audience sat frozen. Meghan's smile faltered. She blinked, then adjusted her blazer. Her voice was still controlled, but the shift was clear. She said, "Well, those numbers do not reflect the full picture. Much of our impact is off the books. Intentionally, we do not do this for publicity. We do not need to justify ourselves every time." Meghan let the words hang for a moment, then replied softly, "I understand not wanting to seek publicity, but when you speak publicly about impact and lead an organization that asks for donations, transparency becomes part of the conversation." The message was clear. The facts were on the table, and the image of quiet private philanthropy that Meghan had painted was starting to crack. The audience was no longer just watching a conversation. They were witnessing a confrontation between performance and proof. Meghan sat a little straighter, her tone cooler now. Her answers were still polished, but the warmth had faded. Her eyes locked on Meghan's, and the back and forth turned sharper. This was not going to be an easy interview anymore, and for the first time, Meghan looked like she knew it. Meghan Kelly leaned in just slightly, still calm, but now clearly driving the conversation. She looked down at the folder again, flipping a page with care. Then she said it, plain and simple. According to the Archewell Foundation's 990 filings, nearly $2 million last year went to PR firms. One of them is owned by a close friend. Another contract lists media strategy services at $500,000. The studio went dead silent. Then a ripple moved through the audience. Low murmurs, a few gasps. One woman in the front row just shook her head slowly. Meghan adjusted her posture and forced a soft smile. She said the spending was part of building a sustainable foundation. She added that admin costs cover a lot of things: infrastructure, outreach, long-term planning. But Kelly did not blink. She replied, "When more money goes into managing the image than into actual programs, it becomes fair to ask why, especially when that image is used to raise funds and shape public opinion." Meghan started to respond, but Kelly kept going. She read directly from a section of the report. "Here is a line item, $250,000 to a branding agency, another to a speech consultant. Your foundation spent more on messaging than on the programs you claimed to champion." Joy Behar raised a hand. She tried to shift the conversation back to Meghan's role as a mother, a public figure. But Meghan was locked in now. "I think people care about transparency," she said, "especially when celebrity foundations ask for trust, ask for donations, and make big claims about global impact." Meghan's voice had tightened. She said people do not understand the inner workings of nonprofit structures. She said they were building a legacy, not just handing out checks. But that answer did not land. Whoopi jumped in gently, trying to recenter the table. She asked if maybe the numbers were being misunderstood, or if context was missing. Kelly turned to her briefly, nodded respectfully, then looked right back at Meghan. "The numbers are public. Anyone can read them. And the context is that you promote a message of service and humility. So the question becomes, are you living it, or just selling it?" The audience began shifting again. Some clapped softly. Others sat stunned, brows furrowed, eyes wide. It was no longer just an interview. It felt like a courtroom. Meghan's calm had worn thin. She was composed, but clearly rattled. Her answers slowed. Her tone got cooler. She kept her chin up, but the ease was gone. Meghan Kelly had come with facts, and she was not letting go. This was no longer a question of media narratives. This was about accountability. And Meghan Markle was no longer in control of the room. Meghan took a breath, then shifted. Her voice softened. She said it felt like a personal attack, not a fair discussion. She looked around the table and said, "People forget she is a woman, a mother, and a person of color under constant scrutiny." The audience responded with a mix of reactions. Some nodded. Others stayed quiet. She said the media has twisted everything about her. That no matter what she does, it gets turned against her. Her tone was low and serious now. She said the real story is about how hard it is to be heard when everything about you is judged. Kelly waited. Then, without raising her voice, she replied, "You are absolutely right. Race and gender have shaped public life in unfair ways. No one is denying that, but right now, we are talking about receipts, not identity." There was a pause. Meghan blinked, her fingers tightened slightly around her mug. Kelly continued, "When people ask questions about spending or transparency, it is not racism. It is responsibility. You have the platform. You have the power. People just want to know what you are doing with it." Then she made the comparison. "Look at Oprah. Look at Ellen. They faced plenty of criticism too. But they built trust through action, real programs, measurable results, not just words." The room felt still. Even the other hosts stayed quiet. Joy looked down. Whoopi gave a small sigh. Meghan's face shifted. The confidence from earlier had slipped. She glanced at the audience, then back to Kelly. She tried to respond, but nothing came right away. Kelly just looked at her calmly. No smirk, no anger, just clarity. This was the moment where the conversation stopped being about feelings and started being about facts. Meghan had tried to turn the heat into sympathy, but Kelly brought it back to the core. And in that silence, something cracked. The energy shifted. Meghan was no longer on the offensive. Now, she was just trying to hold the ground under her feet. Kelly leaned forward, her tone steady. She asked, "Can you give me one example of a cause that gained national or global attention only because of you?" The table went quiet. Meghan looked caught off guard. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes shifted left, then right. Scanning the faces around her, she finally answered, "Mental health. I have used my platform to speak openly about it." Kelly nodded slowly, almost like she expected that response. "Mental health is important," she said, "but that conversation did not start with you." She started listing names. Princess Diana, Prince William, Prince Harry, Demi Lovato, Lady Gaga, all of them had used their platforms, long before Meghan, to speak out and push for real change. Kelly continued, "Mental health has always been bigger than one person. What people are asking is, what have you added to it? What new support, systems, what measurable impact?" Meghan looked stunned. She tried to speak again, but the words came out soft and scattered. Then Kelly dropped the final piece. She reached behind her and pulled out a printout. It was a press release from the Archewell Foundation, a recent one. Vague, glossy language, promises, pledges, no numbers, no updates. No updates. Kelly held it up and said, "This is what people see. No programs, no partnerships, no funding data, just words." That was it. Meghan stood up, she pushed back her chair, said she was done being disrespected, and that this was not the conversation she agreed to have. The hosts looked stunned. Joy blinked. Whoopi raised her eyebrows. Meghan turned toward the audience, then toward the backstage curtain. She was ready to walk out, and that was when the energy shifted. The room felt electric. Not because of drama, but because something real had just happened. A question had been asked, a line had been crossed, and the truth, whether painful or not, had been put out in the open. This was not a PR interview. This was not a press tour. This was a moment of accountability, and Meghan was not ready for it. Kelly sat up straighter and looked Meghan in the eye. Her voice was clear and calm. "You agreed to come here. You signed the contract. You cashed the check. So you owe people answers." The audience was silent. Meghan shifted in her seat. Kelly was not being cruel. She was being firm. She was holding a mirror up, and it was time to look. She continued, "If you ask people for money, for attention, for loyalty, you have to be ready when they ask questions. That is what accountability looks like." Meghan leaned forward, her voice shaking slightly. "I have sacrificed everything for this. My privacy, my peace, my safety, all of it." Kelly nodded slowly, but then she delivered the line that broke through the tension and gained everything, too. It hit hard, because it was true. The fame, the headlines, the brand deals, the luxury, it had all come with the platform. And with that platform came responsibility. Kelly was not just talking to Meghan. She was talking to everyone watching. The influencers, the public figures, the celebrities who ask for support but avoid tough conversations. "You do not get to cash the check and walk away," she said. "You do not get to say you are a leader and then hide when things get uncomfortable." Meghan said nothing. Her face was tight. Her fingers curled around the edge of her seat. Kelly kept going. "Influence is power. But real power means showing up when it is hard, not just when the cameras are friendly." The audience felt it. The weight of the words, the honesty of the moment. This was not just a disagreement. This was the peak of the confrontation, and there was no room left for spin. Kelly had drawn the line between being a public figure and being accountable, between influence and impact, between speaking up and walking away. Meghan slowly sat back down. Her eyes no longer scanned the room. Her hands rested in her lap. Still, the fire in her voice was gone. Across from her, Meghan Kelly remained calm. Her tone softened, but her words still carried weight. "The real work does not fear questions," she said. "It welcomes them, because the truth holds up under pressure." There was no anger in her voice, just clarity, just a message meant for everyone watching. She looked out toward the audience and continued, "We have to stop mistaking branding for action. Followers are not the same as facts. A hashtag is not a solution, and posting a quote is not the same as standing in the storm." Meghan stayed quiet. Kelly did not gloat. This was not about winning. It was about pulling back the curtain, about asking viewers to think deeper. "We are living in a time," Kelly said, "where performative activism is rewarded more than real sacrifice. But if you care about a cause, if you say you want change, you cannot run from hard conversations." She paused for a moment, letting it settle. Meghan Markle represents something bigger, not just a person, but a trend, where people want the title without the test, the praise without the pressure. That is what this moment exposed. And with that, the segment moved on. No mic drop, no shouting. Just a powerful silence. filled with reflection, because sometimes the biggest confrontations are not loud, they are honest, and they leave the audience thinking long after the lights fade. And that wraps up what might be one of the most intense moments we have seen on daytime television in a long time. This was not about hate. It was about holding people to their own words. Accountability is not an attack. It is the price of influence. If someone asks for support, they should be ready to show the work. Not just the headlines, not just the speeches, but real answers, real action. Megyn Kelly pushed for clarity, and Meghan Markle faced questions she was not ready to answer. That says something, and it is something we all need to think about. Now it is your turn. Was Megyn Kelly too harsh? Or was she just asking what everyone else was thinking? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more raw, real moments like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the conversation is only getting started.